Welcome back to the deep dive. So usually, we're dissecting the latest shifts in AI or digging into some forgotten corner of history.
Right.
But today we're pivoting. We're looking at a piece of writing called The Specimen Jar, Breaching the Family Citadel
By James Slade.
by James Slade. And I think we need to frame this right from the jump. It's not just an article. It reads like a field report.
That's the perfect term for it. It's a tactical analysis, but the war zone is a family living room. He doesn't write this like a victim. He writes it like a correspondent who's finally made it back across the border to safety.
Yeah, and he's now dissecting the mechanics of what he just escaped.
Exactly. The mechanics of a narcissistic family system and specifically what happens when you finally stop playing by the rules.
And the way he opens this thing, it's just such a bait and switch. He describes a video still. It's from January 2025. The subject, which is how he refers to himself, almost like a case study.
Keeps that distance.
He does. He's standing under a tree in Florida, huge smile, wide open sky. You see that on your social media feed, you just think, oh, nice vacation.
Double tap, scroll on. But the context is everything.
Oh.
Because that smile isn't joy in the way we think of it. He says that's the only moment in 5 years where the performance stopped.
It's not happiness, it's relief.
It's physiological relief. It's the simple absence of a threat.
And that contrast, that's the whole show right there. The Florida smile, which was real because he was alone, versus the mask he has to wear all the other times.
And he gives it a name. He calls it the home code switch.
We have to talk about this because code switching is a term we usually hear in sociology, right? In terms of race or class.
Sure. It's a survival tool you use in public, in the corporate world, maybe.
But he's taking that concept and applying it to the one place you're supposed to be able to let your guard down. The home code switch is the mask he puts on inside his own living room.
And that's the tragedy of it. Your home is supposed to be where your nervous system can finally stand down. For him, it's a high-stakes stage.
A stage. He talks about the 2024 holidays being a stage-managed event. His partner even poured a ton of money into it, trying to create this perfect, conflict-free zone.
Right. The logic being, if the food is perfect and the gifts are great, maybe the matriarch will be calm and everyone can just breathe.
But that logic completely backfired.
It did. And this is where the psychology of it gets so counterintuitive. You'd think a controlling person wants a calm, perfect environment.
You would.
But Slade points out that in these cluster B dynamics, when the environment gets too calm, the abuser loses control. Their internal chaos feels louder.
So they have to stir things up. They have to create a crisis outside to match the one they feel inside.
Precisely. So the partner's attempt at a perfect holiday was actually a threat to the system. If everyone's happy, the matriarch isn't the center of the drama anymore.
And the dutiful son, the role he's been forced to play, is required to just pretend none of this is happening. He has to maintain the delusion.
Which explains his reaction when he had to leave Florida.
Oh, that part was visceral. A full-blown panic attack. And he's clear it wasn't about missing the beach. It was, and I'm quoting, visceral terror.
The terror of putting the costume back on.
Yeah.
The sheer psychological weight of becoming that character again.
So what makes the costume so heavy? Why is it so rigid?
Well, that takes us to the core metaphor of the whole piece. It's the title itself, the specimen jar.
Yeah, let's go there. This comes from a direct quote from his mother. And he stresses this wasn't a one-time thing.
No, it was her go-to line.
Usually when she was in a rage, and usually, and this is the sick irony, while he was in the middle of taking care of her.
She would say,
I should have left you in a specimen jar.
Ugh, it just stops you in your tracks. I mean, most insults are about your behavior. You're lazy, you're selfish, whatever. This is an attack on his very existence.
It really is. I want to break down the image because the words are so specific. A specimen jar. What does that mean?
Well, first, it's objectification, pure and simple. You don't put people in jars, you put things.
Dead things.
Or,
things to be studied.
Exactly. She's basically confessing that she doesn't see him as a person. He's a possession, a tool, something to be looked at and controlled, but never, ever to have a life of its own.
And there's that second layer to it that he points out, which is stagnation.
Yes.
Things in a specimen jar don't grow. You put a frog in formaldehyde, it stays a frog forever.
And that is the unspoken demand of the narcissistic parent. The child must remain in a state of dependent, suspended animation. The child's growth, their career, their marriage, their own thoughts, it's all seen as a betrayal.
Because if the specimen grows legs and walks out of the jar, the collector loses their prize.
Autonomy is framed as abandonment. And look, that's a tough dynamic even when everyone is healthy. But Slade's report then moves into what he calls the collision.
This is where it gets even more complicated. You have this long-term personality disorder, and now it's intersecting with active dementia.
It's a nightmare scenario.
Hmm.
And his metaphor for this is the leaking faucet.
It's so perfect because the manipulation used to be, sharp and calculated. Now, he says, it's sloppy and erratic.
But, and this is the key, just because the logic is leaking out doesn't mean the malice is gone. It's just messier.
And we see this play out in this battle over her care. The subject tries to shift his role from servant to manager.
A very healthy move.
Right. He brings in professional aides, sets up Medicaid, tries to build a real support system for her, and she refuses all of it.
That refusal is the key data point. Logically, if you need help and someone offers to pay for professionals to come to your home, you say yes.
So why say no?
Because a professional aide has boundaries. They clock out at 5. They have a job description.
You can't own them.
That's it. An aide is a transaction. A specimen, on the other hand, belongs to you 247. So by trying to outsource the care, he was breaking the ownership model. He was offering care, but withholding his soul.
And that move, I will manage your care, but I will not be your care. That's what triggered the crisis.
And a new smear campaign begins. It's a classic tactic. If you can't control the person, you control the narrative about them to everyone else.
Which leads us to his next big concept, the family citadel. He says the family is like a fortress, but the walls aren't to keep intruders out.
No, the walls are there to keep the truth from getting out.
And to keep the victim trapped inside, believing that this bizarre, abusive reality is normal.
Inside the citadel, the laws of physics are different. Up is down. Abuse is love. Silence is loyalty.
So that brings us to the climax of the report, the thing that finally breached the citadel walls. Christmas morning, 2025, he gets a voicemail.
And he makes a decision. He releases a transcript of that voicemail to the public.
A huge move. A nuclear option, really. And of course, he got backlash. Don't air your dirty laundry. She's still your mother. All of that.
Predictable stuff.
But his defense of it is so powerful, he writes. Revenge is about housing pain. Recovery is about ending control.
And that is the whole point. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He was trying to save himself. This gets at the idea of the universal witness.
Explain that.
Well, inside the citadel, you're isolated. Or worse, you have relatives, witnesses, who see it all but say nothing to keep the peace.
That betrayal from the bystanders. He says that's often the deepest cut.
It really is. So, he couldn't find a witness inside the walls. He went looking for one outside. He posted that transcript online and basically asked the world, am I crazy? Is this normal?
And thousands of strangers came back and said,
no, that is not normal. That is abuse. We believe you.
That validation. It's like oxygen. It breaks the gaslighting spell. It proves that a reality exists outside the citadel.
It proves north is still north, even if everyone in your house swears it's south. And that's what gives you the permission to finally walk away.
So he walks away, and he ends the report talking about where he is now. He uses the word individuation.
It's a Jungian term. It just means the process of becoming your own distinct person, separate from your family's influence. For him, that process was arrested. He was kept in the jar.
And now he's finally doing that messy, painful work of figuring out who he is when he's not just a reflection of his mother's needs.
He even reframes the estrangement. It's not a tragedy, it's clarity. He uses that Schopenhauer quote.
Mostly it is loss that teaches us about the worth of things.
Oh, it's a beautiful way to put it. By losing the illusion of that family, he gained himself. He learned the worth of his own sanity.
And he's clear this isn't just his diary. He calls it a field report because he left it as a map for other people.
That's right. He's sending a signal back into the citadel for others who might still be trapped. He's saying, I got out. The walls aren't as solid as you think.
And there's a world out here where you don't have to put on a costume just to survive breakfast.
Yeah, the sheer amount of energy that takes. The metabolic cost of the home code switch. It's staggering when you really think about what you could do with that energy if it were your own.
But the hopeful part is that you can reclaim it once the jar is broken.
Once the jar is broken, the energy is yours again.
Well, this has been a heavier deep dive than usual, but a really necessary one, I think. We talk about systems all the time, tech, economics, but the family system is the first one any of us ever learned.
And for some of us, it's the one we most have to unlearn. And for anyone listening who maybe felt a little jolt of recognition hearing about the Florida smile or got the specimen jar.
Take that as your data point.
Yeah. You have a right to exist outside the jar.
We'll be back next time. Maybe we'll pivot to something lighter. You know, black holes, dark matter.
Simple stuff.
Simple stuff compared to family dynamics. Thanks for listening.
Take care of yourself.